Today, we are going to build your first process. Hi, I'm Kathleen Lawson, and I help small business owners take control of their time in their business. And we put the strategy, structure, and routines in place so they can execute on their big goals. One of the things I work on with all of my clients is processes. Processes are really key to your business. So, first, they help you to stop reinventing the wheel all the time. They eliminate the overwhelm that comes from constant decision making. Processes allow you to be a lot more strategic about your operations, and it really sets you up for scaling. So, today I'm going to talk you through a simple framework for creating your processes. So, I like to start with the client journey. And the reason I do this is you lay out everything that happens when you work with your clients so you can very easily and visually see all the places that you probably need to think about and create a process. So I have created for us here a very simple client journey. And for this little business, we start with the discovery call. We create a proposal for the client, and then they make a decision. Maybe they say no, in which case they go into our little nurture bucket where we're going to put them on our mail list and follow up. Or they say yes, in which case we onboard them. We start working on their project, and then eventually we offboard them. So when we lay it out like this, we can see all the places where we need a process. So maybe we need a process around the discovery call, like what happens on that call and what do we need to cover and what information do we need and how do we move into the proposal and what's our proposal process? How do we create that? How do we present that? What's our nurture process? If they say no, we add them to the mailing list. Do we call again in a couple months? Like, what do we do there? And then how do we onboard them? How do we actually deliver the service? What are all the steps around delivering the service? And then finally, how do we offboard them? So we can see now all the places that we need to kind of work through in order to create the processes. And for our purposes today, we are going to focus on onboarding. So in this client journey, what's the onboarding process? So once we've decided on what the first process we're going to work on, we need to brain dump all the steps. So this is pretty simple. This is literally just kind of thinking through what happens when I onboard a client. What are all the things that I need to do? So in our example here, when I bring on a client, as I think about it, well, first I send out a contract, then I send the client the invoice, I schedule the strategy session, I set up a Google Drive for all of our project information. I add the client to Slack because that's where we're going to communicate. And I like to follow my clients on social media, all their platforms. So that is right now my onboarding process. So by documenting this, putting it in order, this is pretty much the order that I handle all these steps. I now have a process. It's a pretty simple process, but it's here. And I could use this little checklist anytime I am bringing on a new client to make sure, yep, we've done all the things. Everything's done. Boom, 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 boom. All set. I don't forget anything. I don't have to, in the middle of a meeting, do something because I just now remembered. I mean, I've got the list. So at this point, I'm a bit more buttoned up and we're doing all these things. But our next step is where really all the magic happens. And this is where we're really going to optimize our process. So what we're going to do is we're going to first really think about this, both from an operational perspective. I'm going to look for gaps. What are things that I'm missing that I need to do? And this is where doing this ahead of time is so helpful because now I can be a lot more strategic. I mean, when I'm just sort of doing this in the moment, I'm just sort of relying on my memory and, oh, yeah, what do I need to do? And if I'm really busy, I'm not going to think much about it. But when I am looking at this ahead of time, I can be really strategic about it and think about, what else do I need to do here? Or how do I want my client to feel? I can take the client perspective here. So we're going to look for gaps. We're going to look at this from the client perspective. And then we're going to see how can we streamline this? Like, what can I automate or what can I delegate here to make this process a lot easier so that I go from all these things that I'm going to do manually to how can I streamline this and how can I make this a lot tighter and how can it look really professional to the client. So then we're going to go to the next step where we're going to optimize this. So when I start out, I am sending out a contract and an invoice, and I might be doing that manually, but you know what? I can set this all up in a CRM and automate this process. I can set up the contract template. I can have it automate the invoicing, and I can do this at the push of a button. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the CRM and automate my contract and my invoice. So that's a nice step. And then as I'm talking this through and thinking about it, I realize, I have a lot of information I need to get from the client up front, and it's always been a little disjointed. I need this, I need that, and sometimes things are in different places. So you know what? I think from both my perspective and to make it look more professional and make it easier for my client, I'm gonna add a questionnaire here so that I can gather all the data and information I need together and in one place and make it easy for my client. And my CRM that I've just set up, it has a feature to do a questionnaire. So I'm going to set that up there. So that's a step I'm going to add, and I'm going to automate that. And so now instead of this information that I might have collected kind of haphazardly, I'm going to create this questionnaire. Then I need to schedule my strategy session. Well, I have a scheduling link. So instead of me asking them and us going back and forth about trying to find the right time, I'm just going to send them my scheduling link, let them book the time. That sort of simplifies that step. Then I'm setting up my Google Drive. And, every time I do that for my client, I'm going in and I'm setting up a new drive. And then I got to go over and grab this document, make a copy and put it over here. And then I've got to go over and do this. Then I'm going to create this thing. And what I can actually do is create a template. So I can set up a templated drive with all the documents I need. And then when I'm ready to onboard this client, I just duplicate that and have that template to make this a lot faster and easier. And then I'm going to add my client to Slack. I'm going to follow my client on social media. And you know what? I'm going to have my VA do that. She can go in and follow my client on all the platforms. So I'm going to delegate that step. And then as I sit here and I think about the whole process, I'm thinking about, I'm setting up this relationship, this work that my client and I are going to do together. What else do I want to do? Well, you know what? I want my client to feel really good. And I want to spoil them a little bit. So I'm going to send them a journal so that they, it's like a little gift. So I'm going to send a little client gift. And you know what? I really want to send something to the person that referred me. So I'm going to add a referral gift also onto my onboarding. So when I onboard my client, I'm going to send a little something to the person that connected us. So now I have this process that's been optimized. We have added some steps that make sense operationally and also to the client, like thinking about how I want the client to feel when now they are working with me. I've automated some steps, I've delegated some steps, I've streamlined. So we go from just kind of haphazardly doing the things that we need to do when we're bringing a client on to having, all right, here's a list of what we're going to do, to now having this very optimized process. So then we can go back and on every step along the client journey, we can do this. And that is going to tighten up your operations and set your client up for an extraordinary experience working with you. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our tips.